Welcome on Speak Your Mind. I'm your host, Shami Lochan. My guest today is from Fiji Roads Authority, General Manager, Network Operations and Maintenance, Aram Ghosh. Welcome on the show, Aram.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Shami.
In fact, the CEO was supposed to come too, Jonathan Moore, but I think he got sick all of a sudden. So there's a lot of pressure on you, Aram, today to answer a lot of questions. And we do encourage our listeners to call us on 3220906 or on 3220907 should you have any questions related to our roads and what Fiji Roads Authority is doing. So, Aram, with the new CEO now on board, I think he's been there for a few months, and you were there as well. What changes are you looking at bringing to FRA, or what changes will you be able to bring to FRA?
So our CEO is very much involved in change for the FRA organisation through its organisational structure. It's been a path set by the governance group, the board of directors, that's started initially with a move towards far less consultants and looking to try and build in-house capacity and looking to recruit more locally and get more focus on the ground from people that are actually actively involved and part of the FRA and not an external party.
So we are assuming that there will be internal structure changes for more efficient work to be carried out on the management level as well.
The organisational structure review really focuses on trying to get more regional focus. So at the outset with the FRA being part of the change from the Department of National Roads, the FRA had to be very strong in its centralisation at the outset in order to make sure that those changes were implemented from a centre point and a strong Suva base. We've now had 4 years under our belt for that, and it's been recognised that having been operated quite centrally, that there has sometimes been a lack of focus or a perception, perhaps more than a reality, but that we needed to have more of a presence physically out in the divisions, out in the regional zones of those divisions.
So, Aram, how long have you been with the FRA? Is this your second year, I guess?
I've been in the FRA for more than 2 years now.
More than 2 years. I mean, now that you had, there was various changes in leadership with FRA, and now that you have the new CEO, does it look promising?
Yes, certainly looks promising, yes.
Will there be any changes that you're planning to do on the field?
Part of our regional focus will see the FRA getting more active in the respective depots, working closer with our contractors to establish like a physical presence out in the remote areas in the regions. So that is the most significant change from where we are currently operating initially at the outset in 2012 out of Suva City. Then we moved into the areas of Lambasa, Nandi, and for our divisions, and now we're looking to go further into the regions from there.
What does FRA need to work on immediately to be able to carry out work smoothly?
The constant challenge for the FRA for work immediately is the condition of the road asset is very aged, is very deteriorated. So the constant challenge is to try and deal with that. But also in the reorganisation and the restructuring, it requires more people, and finding good people is going to be the focus.
Would you say that before the new CEO moved in, your major challenge was lack of resources apart from that manpower, which now you're going to look into?
Yes, having personnel is always something that makes life easier to share the workload, because in this extremely high workload, we've got a major portfolio across multiple activities. We're involved in everything from jetties to bridges to roads, and right down to the mowing of the grass, the correction of a bent sign, through to significant works of bridges that collapse and jetties that have their moorings ripped off, and all sorts of detail that is the volume across the Fiji Islands, where we have over 24 islands of road, And so establishment out to those areas and covering that wide terrain is
You
challenge.
mentioned earlier, Aaron, that there's a lot of work to be carried on our roads because it's dated, the quality, the roads need repair. So is it because the roads are pretty old and dated, or is it the work carried on our roads wasn't properly supervised and right materials were not used, which is why it's deteriorating?
I think that the real, going back into history, that the original roading infrastructure here was, if I look at it, quite well built. There was some genuine investment made in the early colonial days, and what we are seeing in terms of the current condition is really a reflection of quite well set up and built infrastructure at that point just becoming aged. And that's common even in developed countries, New Zealand, Australia. That situation, particularly for underground utilities, pipe work that was put in 40, 60 years ago, is getting to that point. And all countries have the problem where most of that stuff was all done at a certain time, and so it's all due to be redone again at a certain time. And we call that a bow wave when it all arrives. With respect to the condition of the roads, and particularly the road surface, regrettably, that's a product of what was a good network was probably managed for a few decades to look quite well on the surface, and I'm sure there wasn't a whole lot of money to go around. We're still struggling with that, and now the focus is on trying to catch up on those roads that, while they would have looked in good condition, they should have been regularly resealed for waterproofing. A few decades of no waterproofing has meant that a lot of it has gone beyond the ability to just put another seal coat on.
So why did the FRA not do waterproofing?
The FRA, in its inception since 2012-13, has been very active in that space. Regrettably, the previous Department of National Roads had a organisation structure and a management philosophy that regrettably didn't see that activity, and I can only comment that it may relate to budget pressures at the time.
Or could it be negligence?
I wouldn't believe it's negligence as much as it's sometimes awareness of what would look good to an untrained eye and seems to be performing quite well, and there's other more urgent focus for what's really broken, and that's where you have to have actually a strong asset management plan so that you intervene and deal with problems before they actually break. But finding that point is a science that many engineers have worked a long time to get to a better understanding of.
Thank you. We have Aram Ghosh from Fiji Roads Authority on Speak Your Mind, and when we come back, we'd like to find out why have we been faced with a lot of chaos on our roads lately with FRA taking multiple projects. So be with us and do call me on 3320906 or 3220907 soon after this. This is Speak Your Mind, and my guest is Aram Ghosh, General Manager Network Operations and Maintenance with the Fiji Roads Authority. Aram, recent projects undertaken by FRA has caused chaos on our streets. So why did FRA take major road projects simultaneously?
It is regrettable that there's so much traffic congestion resulting from the roadworks. The need to do all of the work has really driven that necessity. It is not that we have the freedom and luxury of choice to stage everything in the most optimum sequence. While there is a place for that, for good coordination, that we need the planning and to keep the timing of items well administered. The challenge of the network condition, the fact that we have got contracts that go through a procurement process, they all have contractual requirements relating to timeframes, contract completion dates, and all of those factors force us occasionally into a space where we must proceed with what's been implemented in the supply chain so far.
So did FRA not take into consideration traffic jam at peak hours, mornings and in the afternoons when people go home? That was crazy, I think. It took it took people about 45 minutes to 1 hour to travel from Suva to Nisinu and other areas. So my point is that if RA knew that they were to construct or to work on so many roads, did they not plan it well to space it out?
The FRA actually did have a plan, and the plan didn't come into, it didn't work. And there's various factors. The plan for the work we did, as an example, was on Princess Road. We tackled the work up through Tathirua with the exact intent to have that corridor fully clear for the works that would then carry on Kings Road or commence on Kings Road with the Sarup 1 project. Regrettably, what was worth about 7 to 8 days worth of pavement construction on that corridor of Princess Road took us more than 4.5 to 5 weeks to complete. And that was really a combination of weather impacts and the sudden bottleneck of traffic impacting the progress we could make. So we actually did have a plan to make one route clear before that happened, but as we commenced the work and we were delayed with the weather, it unfortunately collided with the work down below on Kings Road. So, I have a bit of a saying with the rest of the team that we can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. It's sometimes a little bit messy, but we have to work through this period very hard, and we are driving our contractors very hard. We do have our staff work daily with the contractor to try and optimise the way that they plan their work, and we have challenges there. They are not always doing the best they can, in our opinion, and we are trying to wield a big stick to get that to improve.
Okay, so when FRA does take major road projects and too many at a time, then do you work very close, I guess, with your stakeholders to maintain flow on roads, working with police and LT? But at this moment, we didn't see your stakeholders working very closely, or there were hardly anyone in sight.
We have a very good working relationship with the LTA and the police. Director of Traffic assists me greatly with respect to assigning his field staff out to various intersections and locations, and we work together with giving them some resources regarding cones and helping do 2-lane in, 2-lane out, morning and evening on the Grantham Road, for example. However, we just got some bottlenecks that are very difficult to even make that work right now. That being said, we've the projects team have worked very hard, and that department has managed to work well with the 2 major bridges, Stinson and Watuanga Bridge, which are on track to open several months before the due date. And we're confident that'll also make a significant difference to what we're experiencing out there.
So when does Watuanga and Stinson Parade bridges open? I guess it's tomorrow?
The formalities for the opening ceremony by the Honourable Prime Minister are all being carried out on Thursday this week.
Okay.
So the program is for the opening of Watuanga Bridge, and then moving on Thursday to the Stinson Parade Bridge.
I think that's much awaited bridge. Everyone has been looking forward to the opening of that bridge. So what's going to happen to the roads which were currently taking people to market? What will be the traffic flow like? Will there be any major changes to current routes when the Stinson Parade Bridge opens?
Yes. We've been working very closely with Suva City Council since November. We have fortnightly meetings with them, and we've been walking through the central city area to establish a workable plan of the new traffic lane flow arrangements through central Suva City. Those plans are conceptually approved with these relevant stakeholders, Suva City Council. We are now, we've arranged and just had completed an aerial drone survey of the city to get very high quality aerial imagery of the town streets, and we are now drafting on those plans the concept diagrams that we've shared and agreed with Suva City Council. And when they've been drawn up to a suitable technical standard, we'll be again working with the council. They'll go through stakeholders as well with us for Fiji Bus Operators Association, taxi federations and the like, and the commercial community in the city. And we'll share what those traffic layouts look at, take on any feedback. There'll also be media release. So there is a plan that probably will take, I believe, up to 3 months from where we sit today in March to engineer the traffic flows through Central City, and the Usher Street road by the market will become a Suva City Council controlled parking area to just manage.
This is the road from where people are accessing market to at the moment, right? So that road will be closed and it will be used by Suva City Council.
Yes, we insist that it can be closed and managed as a car park space. But we've insisted that it remains free from any physical permanent structures, because if other works similar to the nature of Stinson Bridge that require a major closure of a road, we have a thoroughfare option available. But it will only receive, during Suva City Council's management, traffic dedicated for the market. And
so soon after the Stinson Parade Bridge is open, people have access to that bridge, maybe from Wednesday or Thursday, you're saying. So then the traffic flow, it was in two directions before, right? It's going to have one flow that will be towards the Civic Centre, moving away from the market area. One lane, will it be?
That is the vision that we've had in our concept plan agreed with the Suva City Council. It is not going to happen, though, at the changeover on Thursday. There's physically a significant amount of preparatory engineering works that we need to do to get the new layouts changed. We won't just deal with that one lane. We're going to look at everything from the not Walu Bay, but from the port right through to Sakuna Park, and even including the block through to Renwick Street.
All right. We'll take another break. We'll be right back to discuss, will there be more road closures because of road repairs, and will there be any major routes in different directions? Quite exciting times for the Fiji Roads Authority. We'll talk more. So do call us when we come back on 33-20906 or 3220-907 on Speak Your Mind. Welcome back on Speak Your Mind. I'm your host, Shami Lochan, and my guest is Aram Ghosh from Fiji Roads Authority. Aram, we were talking about Watuanga and the Stinson Parade bridges. So Watuanga Bridge opens just before school opens, right? So the old bridge will be closed totally?
Yes, the Old Bailey Bridge will not be in use. The two-lane new bridge will be in use, and the Bailey Bridge will be resited to another bridge that's requiring refurbishment. So we'll use that structure for sure.
Will there be more road closures because of road repairs?
There will definitely be more road closures in the coming months. It's inevitable, and we will continue to work hard regarding coordination and planning to ensure the timing is as less disruptive as possible. I can see the most clear and an imminent issue that's going to come on the horizon shortly is the work between the ports, Walu Bay through to Lamy Corridor. So the project work called SARUP 1. SARUP stands for the Suva Arterial Road Upgrade Program. So SARUP 1 is a package of work currently underway, and that work is going to proceed from the Samambula down Edinburgh Drive and then all the way out towards Lamy Town. So that Lamy Town corridor has got very limited alternative routes. So the public can expect some serious disruptions and delays in travel time as our contract works for upgrading the road make our way out towards Lamy.
Okay, so that's some news for Lamy residents there. So FRA has also currently put on hold a number of road projects, right? So what was the reason, and when will you start these projects again? Where will these projects be?
The FRA has another package of Suva Arterial Road Upgrade Program, SARUP 2. That package of work is being tendered later. Well, we thought perhaps at the end of this month, but definitely in the first quarter of the year. The SARUP 2 package of work will be put to the market, and that includes high-profile roads like Amy Street, Waimanu Road, and the such like, Ratu Sakuna Road. So that work is going to get underway, we hope, from March onwards. The other significant major future project includes looking at how we can strengthen or actually rebuild the Tamavui Wai Bridge that's under a weight restriction. So there are many other projects extending out into the Nandi area. What our CEO is particularly interested in is looking at resilience. How can we provide better resilience in our road corridors and alternative routes? A scenario of trying to take traffic off Princess Road early up through Wailuku and out onto the back end of Lamy. That could be an option to significantly reduce the amount of congestion and traffic right through into the city centre by taking a lot of Missouri-bound traffic that wanted to head to Nandi, that they can go through the Princess Road and down there. So he's a man of vision, he's a man of action, and I'll expect to see some of those bigger projects come through the pipeline in the following budget application.
So does FRA have enough budget, or a budget is not a constraint at the moment?
With respect to the current amount of the failed and deteriorated road network, and also for the high demands for improved roads, there are a lot of roads that are quite adequate to travel. You have got access, but they now have got problems relating to the customer is experiencing dust. It's it has sometimes not all weather access because it's got a low ford crossing, and they'd prefer to have a bridge and they'd prefer to have tar seal. So the combination of the demand and the amount of backlog work would see that we could actually spend more than the allocated budgets. The reason that we don't is that the procurement processes, the due diligence to plan it properly, design it and get it out to the market, as well as the supply chain, which is significant. The supply chain struggling to give us all the volumes of gravel required to the right standard, all of the quality assurance and testing, forces the process to be slowed a little, to be more realistic around what Fiji can actually produce and deliver.
Yeah. While we are still on roads, you must have seen that our roads get worn out very quickly, especially you see multiple potholes on our roads soon after heavy rain, or even if the rain is not that heavy, but we get a lot of potholes. The tar seal comes out quickly. What is causing this so frequently? Is it rain? But how easily?
Yes, the reason that we have the high incidence of potholing is due to the historic lack of waterproofing. So roads typically need to be resealed every 10 to 15 years. A new skin of tar seal and chip is put on in sort of 10 to 15 year intervals, and for a few decades that life cycle wasn't being done. So it's easily done, easily understood, because many roads that we currently are resealing, we receive criticism for people saying, "Why are you sealing that road? It's a good road. This one over here is broken." We are sealing that, what looks like a good road, to make sure that the skin that's on it is like a waterproof skin, needs to be resealed. The analogy would be like if you have a house and you paint your house to protect the timber. If you can paint the house regularly, you might just need to do a little light sanding and put a coat over it. If you let it go too far apart, the wood starts to rot behind it. Now you have to not only do the sand back, but you're going to maybe cut pieces out before you do your coat. And if you don't do any of that for a long time, there's no point in even cutting. You start cutting that board out, you cut the whole board out, you're basically rebuilding. And the bulk of our roads, I would say in the order of up to 70% of roads, are at that stage of having to be fully rebuilt.
Yeah, because you may have noticed, because when we normally travel, we see a lot of patchwork over the potholes. So there is a lot of uneven surface. What you mean to say is that you'll be getting rid of that surface and you'll be putting on a new layer, waterproof layer, which is not going to cause potholes after a rainy season. Is that what you're trying to say?
Roads that have got significant potholing in it already, and we keep going back to them, and they have got a lot of pothole patching already, they are an example of where it has gone so far past its waterproofing that the problem is in the pavement now. So the wood, if I was to use the analogy again of the house, the wood is rotten. We need to rebuild the road. We cannot put another waterproof layer on it. So those roads that are very bad and very rough, and Amy Street is a classic example,
Yes.
they cannot just be sealed on top of. They need to be fully rebuilt. Roads that have got a few blemishes on them, we will do a touch-up on those localised failures and then reseal them. And that is where, like I say, we get customers saying to us, why are you putting a seal on that good road while the broken ones are there? Well, we can seal 5 kilometres of road and waterproof it for the same price as only being able to fully rebuild 1 kilometre. So we ask the public's patience where we go about actively and quite aggressively resealing good roads, while the ones that are already failed beyond resealing are on our program for full rehabilitation. And that is an expensive process, and it also takes longer to achieve. And the SARUP 2 program that is coming out shortly, that program is specifically targeting roads that have got known underground utilities, the water, the sewer,
The drain and all that.
and yes, also the provision for TfL and
And Water
FEA
Authority, yes.
cabling underneath. So those sites and the SARUP 2 program are all identified because we want to work with those other government stakeholders and agencies to upgrade their infrastructure under the pavement. So when we do our road work and seal, we do not have to come back and dig on those roads again.
It's a huge workload on your shoulders. But the good news is that we are getting right answers and good answers and great assurance to public at large who use road. When we come back, we are going to talk about FRA's concerns about some behaviors, some motorists on roads who are misbehaving. I think, Aram, you made a comment on that too earlier in press release and with our news as well. So we'll be talking about this. So join me on Speak Your Mind soon after this break. Welcome back on Speak Your Mind. General Manager Network Operations and Maintenance, Aram Ghosh from Fiji Roads Authority is my guest today. Aram, you are concerned about the behavior of some motorists on our road. What kinds of behavior?
The main item that we see affecting congestion on the roads is the random stopping of vehicles, dropping off and picking up. That goes through to bus operators, as taxi operators, and sadly, as they're the most prolific example of it, even the general commuter and the public has an attitude of just entitlement to stop on the middle of the road. So we just urge people to show respect and courtesy at all times and obey the road rules, and also follow the markings and signs that are provided. They're there for a reason, and we find that people blatantly ignore them. And we urge our partners in LTA and the police as well to actually exercise their enforcement laws, because the FRA is only the one that provides the space, but we don't do the enforcement of the laws in those spaces.
That's a huge problem, I must say. Drivers or motorists on our roads misbehaving. Illegal parking is another huge issue. So do you see positive result? While I'm saying it's a huge problem in this country, in our city. Just lately, when we were talking last week, someone said that the town council in Lambasa booked an LTA officer who had parked illegally, and these are your stakeholders. How will you make it happen?
The only way we can make it happen is we hold people accountable, and so all we can continue to do is ask and urge those stakeholders that have the authority and delegated powers to enforce the law to actively go about and doing that. And my discussions with Director of Traffic Police have been very encouraging, and we know that the Commissioner of Police has invested with his team in highly mobile units on motorcycles. So we believe that the more that they can get out there and their coverage and presence is noted in the network, as well as the active booking and infringements made by LTA, police and the local municipal councils, we believe that there can be change made, but it has to happen at the pocket.
We need more presence. We need the traffic police officers and LTA's presence more on our roads, especially in peak hours too. Let's talk about bridges. Bridges are a serious issue in our country. Is FRA self-reliant in order to review the jetties and bridges around the country? What should be the life of a bridge, and are our bridges lasting that long?
The FRA is aware of its bridge stock. It has got extensive inspection reports carried out by experts in that field, and we have a comprehensive and rather overwhelming program of bridge upgrading work. Bridges are typically designed to be 80 to 100 years life, and similar to the example I said about all countries have that situation where a lot of infrastructure like water pipes are all built at a certain time back in the 1940s or something. This stuff went in. Now bridges are typically around 1960s, and so you hit that bow wave again where all those structures get to be about all due at the same time, and therefore you are confronted with a huge bill to fix that all at once. So you can't, and you put a program together that shows how you address that over 3, then 5 and 10-year program, prioritising based on land use and where the heavy loads are. The reason that we're not maybe achieving some design lives is that because the proliferation of overloading heavy commercial vehicles, abusing the law and not complying with LTA regulations for axle loads has also added to the problem of lack of maintenance and aged structures.
So will there be, how about bridges in rural areas, bridges which join communities, because these are villages and communities where there's a river parting the villages. Is FRA looking at putting bridges there too, or making some kind of provision for people to cross over?
We constantly work with our partners, particularly in the rural areas. We rely a lot with our commissioners and their office, and so it's about trying to understand the supply and demand, and understanding some economics to build that into the prioritisation. But we do have programs in place right now to enhance rural community access. We do this through the Rural Roads projects, and that work is active, and it actually does crossings and bridges in that work as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll be right back soon after this. When we come back, we're going to talk about how does FRA handle complaints and other things, like recently there has been a landslide in Vesari. It's becoming an eyesore. Whose responsibility is it to remove that mudslide or the pile of mud in that area? And if you do have questions, please do call me after this break on 3220906 or 3220907 during Speak Your Mind Talkback. This is our last segment on Speak Your Mind. My guest is Aram Ghosh from Fiji Roads Authority. Aram, we were talking about the bridges and, of course, the conditions of road. Now, you're also working on Edinburgh Drive. How serious is the condition there, and how long will it take to bring that road to complete work on Edinburgh Drive?
The Edinburgh Drive had a brief concern that was fully assessed by expert geotechnical engineers. So there was a small delay there that required the road to be closed, but it's being checked out to be perfectly safe for the continuation of the project in the meantime. And that project is on track to be completed to the bottom there. I'm not close enough to the exact program, but I'd expect it towards the end of this month. And then it continues, as I mentioned, through to Walu Bay and Lamy, so it's a major piece of road work.
So the Queen's Highway at Vesari, that area is landslide prone area. Whenever we experience heavy rain, we definitely know something is going to happen. So whose responsibility is it to manage the landslide zone, and what will FRA do to prevent future landslides?
Yeah, gravity never sleeps, so it's a challenge for all. The reality of landslides is inevitable. We will manage those that are on our road reserve, and then we will liaise with landowners that where we see a potential threat, and see how we can work with that stakeholder to mitigate or minimise that threat. With respect to Vasati slip right now, comments are made that it looks a little bit unsightly due to the material still piled there. The FRA have done that deliberately. It's
so you left it there for the community to remove. It's not your responsibility.
No. We've left it there deliberately because it is our responsibility. It's in the road reserve. We've left it there deliberately because it's the only protection at the moment from that highly mobile surface from re-entering the road. So, sort of common sense would suggest to people that we should dig that away to clear the road and make it look pretty. The danger is this is wet season, although we've been very fortunate with the last 3 weeks of weather. But in any moment, we will be getting our torrential downpours, and that highly mobile material will be prone to coming back down on the road. We've left that material at the foot of the hill to prevent it from slopping and sliding straight across the road, causing potentially an accident, but also requiring reactive response and more money spent jumping around to go and attend to it. So while we appreciate it looks like we may not be doing anything about it, that's a deliberate decision. While we wait for the wet season to pass, we are still engaging engineering services to see how and what solution we can come into do around March. After quarter two, we will start to do work on restoration of that site.
Okay. What would be FRA's next year's plans, or like in 2018 and moving to 2019? What are your major projects you have?
The major projects really come from the capital workspace in terms of continuation of the 4-laning projects, the continuation of resilience projects, including looking through the interior road to Monasavu. It's quite interesting. We're actually seeing the small Prius vehicles driving all the way up to Nungalawai these days. I mean, that was unheard of a year ago. So we're making great inroads into the unsealed road rural network, making it serviceable. But we want to make sure that there's another route right through past the Monasavu hydro plant and back down onto the Western Division. We think that would add resilience in the long term, as well as the essential bulk power source for Fiji. So having a better quality of road access up there would be good for everyone in the long term.
So apart from the roads in Fiji, what are your other challenges? What are other challenging issues faced by FRA?
The two Moneyball items are really to do with managing overloads so that our pavement designs last their life. If a truck carries 1 or 2 tonne more on its axle, it can turn a 25-year design life down to 12. The other challenge is gravel. We have the bulk of our industry is built around gravel and aggregate resources, so we're working close with our other government agencies and Department of Lands and Minerals and also Department of Environment with regard to how we can get secure access to gravels in a way that is still sustainable, acceptable practices, protecting the environment, but really helping the supply chain and the industry then have access to it reliably. We know we get far better contract prices if we're able to guide them to where the source is. If we put a job out and let the market, in particular remote areas, try and find that right source, we're open to very wild pricing arrangements.
So FRA has been engaging contractors from overseas. Do you have any other plans to engage local contractors to get the work moving faster?
Yes, we do, and we actively have already. So there's a lot of local contractors that are working for the FRA directly. They're predominantly in the rural roads contract space, but we've got a maintenance contract set up on Kandavu Island, which is a pilot of a local contractor doing a long-term maintenance program on one set of the road. It's a road network in its own, Kandavu Island roads.
My last question is, I've just noticed in Suva major areas that the street lights are not working or the traffic lights are not in sync. How do you handle complaints? How do we, or if we have any complaints in regards to street lights or traffic lights or anything to do with roads or lights or drainage, how do we go about reporting with FRA?
The FRA can be contacted on the free call 5720 number. We also have our website, and then if you just call the main office, we have what we call a service request system. So everyone's request is recorded in a database, given and assigned a customer number, and that number is then assigned a specific person in charge, and it gets closed out. People monitor those and follow up and check it through. So we receive and we welcome all calls. People talk about complaints, but to me it's just information. It's extra sets of eyes and ears out there that help us understand reality out on the ground.
So we do hope that the lights in the city will be back on, and the traffic light at Ratundovi Road entering into RB Patel, I think, will be fixed, because it goes green for about 2 seconds and then it goes to orange and stops, which could be a major hazard. Well, Aram, thank you very much for coming on the show, and we wish FRA all the best with trying to construct our roads to give us safer roads, and we urge the drivers to please do behave and follow rules which are in place when it comes to parking and stopping where you should be stopping and not crossing double lanes. So I'll join you on Speak Your Mind next week. Thank you, Aram.
And as a closing comment, I would really like to thank all the hardworking men and women out there, particularly the ones in the field on these hot days that are doing the hard work physically on the ground. It's very much appreciated. It's a combination of work from the ground to the people in the office, and we thank everyone involved.
Thank you, Aaron. So join me on Speak Your Mind next week. My guest will be the Permanent Secretary for Education.